Let's do a quick walk of the homestead. So I've got the cactus outside and they're surviving nights down to 30 degrees. So they're about ready for transplant, which is great. Best time of the spring is when we start moving things outside and there's less things I have to worry about inside the house. So first area is the yuccas. Yuccas have an edible main stem as well as the flowers are edible. And the flowers do taste a lot like cabbage, to be honest. I may have actually gotten some seeds. So I was coming down here to see if I had any seeds in here. Not very many. We'll leave them. But the new babies have finally sprouted. So I went ahead and trimmed back all the competing greenery, which will help them to establish and grow. At this time of year, the stems that are hanging up here, they're not going to grow back. A new stem will actually grow, so you can snap those off and leave them nice and short. So first thing that you want to worry about in the spring is dividing and spreading your plants. So these beautiful peonies here, a few of these bundles are a little big. So this bundle looks nice, it's really compact, really nice and small. This one's a little too wide going left. So we'll come over here and we will chop off that further left side of it, dig out the roots and relocate that elsewhere in the yard. So I've done that up here and it'll look sad and wimpy for a season, but the next spring it'll wake up just like that, just as beautiful as the ones up here, no problems. Need to make sure you check on your berries. Berries are starting to wake up, and when that happens, they need to be put into their restraints. So they will grow all kinds of wild if you don't get on top of it soon. As soon as they're awake, make sure that you put them on their grates so that all the new growth will grow above the bug zone. And that way, if you get any early flowers, you won't have to worry about dealing with pests. So just really easily tuck everybody back into the grate, especially the ones who are awake. You can see some baby ones coming up, some first year shoots. Just give everybody a good look over. Keep walking. It looks like the persimmon is awake. Persimmon kind of tastes like a tomato. Not kidding, it's very weird. It's a tree or a bush, depending on if it's in full sun or shade. When it grows in shade, it typically grows like a tree with a singular trunk. When it grows in full sun, it grows a lot like a bush, kind of like hazelnut, to be honest. Come over here and check the rest of the raspberry canes. Just another variety of thornless raspberry, which I don't understand why they call it thornless. It has thorns, kind of like cucumbers have thorns. This is a win for us. I can see it waking up, a little peeking green there. This is a Pakistan mulberry. Now, our mulberry trees, they produce mulberries that are about this big. They're black. They're great to use for like jam. They're not quite big enough to eat as like a picking berry, but our mulberries are this big. Pakistani mulberries are about 4 inches long. So much longer, much better setup for picking. We'll go this way. Husband's working on the mowers. We've been adding some beautiful focal points in the fall, like flowers. All of the pears have already flowered and they're already pollinated. You can tell they're pollinated because the flowers will fall off and this part of the flower will turn into a bulbous structure. That is actually the fruit, this bulbous structure. You're looking at the clusters of flowers on fruiting trees. You want to make sure there are less than 5 in the cluster. So this one only has 3 in the cluster. Those are going to be great. The reason you want less than 5 is like over here, you can see some of the bulbs are really big and then some of those bulbs are really small. Those big ones are going to get really large and they're going to ripen first. The smaller ones are actually going to take an extra couple months. But as long as there's only 4 there, it'll be fine. There's some extra ones here. We're going to pull those off. So that stem isn't trying to keep alive a 3rd flush. We don't want the tree to flush 3 times with fruit. It's a little too excessive for the tree and it can cause it to kill off some of the higher branches due to the tree having to spend so much energy to keep all the fruits alive. So it's just not a good practice. But if you thin the fruits to only between 3 and 5 per cluster, you will have much larger fruits that will get full sized. Alright, so we're going for the shovel right now. Up there we got the blackberries and loganberries. Over here we got the beginning of the figs. More figs there, they're just not awake so you can't really see them unless I get real close. And then we've got the start of the fruit tree orchard. So when figs wake up in a cold zone like zone 6, 5, and 4, they typically grow back from the ground, not from the original shoot. This type of growing is more natural for the Chicago hardy fig, but you can teach other types of fig to grow in this way and still produce fruit, because the root ball will eventually get used to the environment, and eventually you will end up with a tree above ground that then wakes up. It just takes time to get there. The roots take time to get there. So in the first year they look kind of like this. When they wake up on the second year, he'll grow back from the ground. On the second year, when they go to sleep, they wake up on their third year kind of like this. And then on their fourth year, they're quite a bit larger. By fifth year, it's a tree. Like, it's a real tree. So you just gotta like stick to it. The asparagus is up here. Give you guys a quick look. This is goji berry. It's spicy. I don't like it. This is asparagus. So a lot of people will look at these before they turn to fern. You can tell if it's male or female based on the shape and size of the stem. We don't do that. It doesn't matter if it's male or female. When you're cutting it, it's only a foot tall. It's roughly this size. And whether it's male or female, it's still going to taste good, because it's going to taste better than store-bought, since it was grown in soil with real sun and real water and real nutrients. It's going to taste better than store-bought, whether it's male or female. We leave our females because the females produce flowers. The flowers turn into seed pods. Every seed pod has between 2 and 5 seeds, which allow us to continue to spread our asparagus elsewhere. We haven't spread any past this patch here, but we have lots and lots of asparagus that we've got down at the tree line. Loganberries are starting to wake up. I like when they wake up and they're under a shade cloth, because they just go crazy trying to escape. It makes them grow a little faster. See, this is what it looks like if they wake up and they're not under shade cloth. They kind of wake up at the bottom of the plant and slowly work their way up the plant. It takes a bit longer. I just ran out of shade cloth. Over here we've got our blueberries and medicinal berries like, gosh darn it, like boysenberries and other types of medicinals. They'll come to me later. Serviceberry, beautyberry. Go past that and we've got our blueberries. Blueberries are really hard because you need to start them in sphagnum moss in the ground. You need as much sphagnum moss as you remove from the hole, and they actually do better when you dig ditches like asparagus versus putting them in their own individual hole. This has to do with the fact that the blueberries' roots can actually talk to each other, and they can share and spread water back and forth, creating like kind of like an underwater reservoir across the entire ditch, versus the one plant trying to keep itself alive like this one up here, who's sitting by himself and there's nobody to talk to. These are our brand new Rainier cherries. They are starting to wake up. These were not topped by our local nursery because we asked them not to top them. We like our trees to be as natural as possible so that they can grow to full height without being manicured down to human height. This is because we don't plan to produce fruit for only 10 years like a typical monoculture styled American fruit production styled farm, but instead we've planted it in this method where the trees will grow completely natural in their environment so that they learn to adjust. They produce fruit that is typical and able to survive in this environment, including our harsh hot summers and our cold winters, and sometimes our below zero winters. So there's a lot going on there. Over here is our pawpaw field. Pawpaws are really hard to transplant because the part of the tree you see above the ground is the same length as the part of the tree below the ground. And I know people say, oh, look at that tree, you know, his root system's got to be that big. Well, that's not necessarily true. With typical trees that don't produce fruit, like evergreens, the root system the taproot is actually half the size of the tree. So if the tree is 50 foot, then the root system has probably got a 25-foot taproot. You can typically tell if the taproot turned at any point during growing because it'll be like this evergreen on the end here, who is shorter in size, yet he's just as wide as the others because he is the same age. And this is caused by the taproot going down, and it hit probably, I don't know, he's probably about 10 feet shorter than his buddies there. So he hit something like a level of clay or something, and the taproot had to turn, and so the tree cannot actually grow any taller. He can only increase by like a foot or 2 feet every year. This pawpaw is flowering. Isn't it beautiful? It'll be so cute to show you that in a few more days when it opens. There's my shovel. Oh no, invasion of weeds. Dang, I'm gonna have to dig these guys out. Okay, this is a forever onion bin. It just means that the onions are not going to actually produce the onions we're going to pull for the season. We're going to let these go to seed. They're going to spread their seeds down, and next year we will harvest these onions to actually eat them. Show you an example on the end of the first year trial and how it's looking now on year 3 with that same example. So this is a forever onion bin on year 2. So these guys will all be full-sized onions that we can harvest in late summer. Same with this bin here. Got a couple weeds to get out of there, but for the most part they look great. Here's our garlic that will be ready to harvest in midsummer. Those onions at the back, this is our year 3 forever bin. So you can see some onions popping up in the middle. Those will go wild, sow their seeds across the middle. We will relocate the seeds at the end of the season. So they look like this in nice even rows and spacing. Those will be ready to harvest in just a few more weeks, like maybe 4 or 5 more weeks, those will be ready. We've got ones here that are about 2 weeks ahead of those. So these will be ready in probably 3 or 4 weeks actually. Tomato area is ready. We've put new dirty chicken bedding down, so it is ready to go. We've got our first strawberries. I've held off endeavor of strawberries until now because they can be temperamental. I like to start my garlic in with my strawberries because it adds nitrogen to the soil, so I don't have to fertilize my strawberries when they're in this like blooming stage. Also, the garlic moves when the wind blows and it keeps the birds away. So if you're trying to find a way to naturally keep the birds away, it's really effective to add your garlic that you've sprouted in your refrigerator for a few weeks so it grows roots, then add it into your strawberry bin because they can reach up past the strawberries and get plenty of sunlight, but then they also like wiggle in the wind and keep the birds away. This is where our grapes, our passion fruit, and other types of vining plants grow. Down there we've got mission olives and white cherries. Up here we've got flowers that are poisonous, but they're beautiful to cut and put on your tables. So midday, this is the hottest point of the day during the summer, but right now it's in spring, so it feels nice. So what I like to do midday, around 3, 4 in the afternoon, come outside and see where the shade lands. That's important. I know this area is sunny during the day, other than when I move a little to my right there. The rest of this is sunny during the day, but it's shaded right now during the hottest part of the day. So keep that in mind when you're planting. Don't plant in monoculture areas where you only have one type of plant and you have to stand in full sun to harvest the plant. Instead, make microclimates. You can do this by growing things like sugarcane, which I'm going to be planting here in front of my flowers, so we don't accidentally hit it with the mower this year, which we've done in past years. We plant our sugarcane in the spring, then in the fall when we harvest it, I put a bunch of pieces like this into these bins and I put them into my little greenhouse in my house, and they stay in there all winter. I water them about once a week until the spring, and then we plant and start all over. The big thing is when you're growing multiple plants together so that they're cohabitating and they're helping each other out, but not just that, they're also able to spread and control themselves based on the fact that they're working together and not against each other. So we're growing grapes on this trellis, which do need quite a bit of nitrogen kind of early in the fruit production. So we put garlic and onions to grow in the same bins. But in front of the garlic and onions, we like to grow sunchoke because you plant it once and you're going to be digging it out forever. Seriously. And what that does is it causes real big divot holes in the soil here in the front of the box, which we can then fill in with new compost in the fall. And it allows us to keep our soil nice and loose and nutritious and not so infected with like bugs and things that are less desirable. Okay, so that's not everything on the homestead, but it's a good bit. Took you guys around for about 20 minutes. Hopefully you learned something new today. And if you guys could give me a follow and a like and even a comment just to say that you were here. And if you came from a different social platform, let me know which one. I'm real curious where my watchers come from. All right, guys, have a great day and good luck out there. It's time for spring planting.